Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and they just keep happening. Sometimes that moment when you think you're about to catch a break, life hits you hard, and the misery starts all over again. I had one chance for everything to make sense. One chance to do something that would fix all my problems. But I failed, and I'll never have that chance again. Walk with me down memory lane for a bit, will ya? My name is Jake, and ever since I was a kid, I've always been bullied. I was smaller than other kids, spoke with a lisp, and my skin was prone to bouts of acne. I was basically a walking target, and every bully in a 5-mile radius wanted a shot at the bullseye. Going to school was a miserable experience for me. My parents couldn't care less about the bruises I brought home, and the teachers were no better. "You need to stand up for yourself, son," they would say. A bunch of idiots. How was I supposed to face off against a high schooler built like Mark Henry? The beatings lightened up as I got older, but that didn't change a thing. Instead of beating me, they would just make fun of me in front of girls, substituting physical damage for emotional damage. All of this forced me to retreat into myself and gravitate towards video games and the internet. A computer geek by necessity, I knew everything there was to know about the internet. Even the dark web, which gave many people nightmares, was my playground. That's where I met my people. In a chat room tucked away in the farthest reaches of the dark web, a meeting place for like-minded souls, all of us were victims of bullying in one way or another. Many days, I would sit in front of my laptop after school, scrolling through the messages in the chat, feeling a sense of companionship as I took in the anonymous stories that were so much like my own. "Kate laughed at me today and everyone joined in. Javier and his crew pulled my pants down during class and the teacher did nothing. I am tired of this. I just want to die. I don't know why they like hurting me. I've never done anything to them." It was always like this. A never-ending stream. Messages from confused kids wanting to understand why they were hated and abused. If it wasn't for Uncle Tom, the chat room would have devolved into a depression hotspot. Uncle Tom had the answers. Uncle Tom comforted all of us and made us feel like we were worth something. Nobody knew what he looked like. We didn't use faces here. We just knew him by his voice. "There will be a day of reckoning," he would say. His basso voice filled with gravitas. "A day is coming when you shall all express your grievances, and you will make them feel what they make you feel." Sure, he spoke like a Old Testament prophet, and he had a tendency to go off on tangents, but he was there for us. He cared. So every day I'd wake up, bathe, have breakfast, and dive into the misery of school. But it wasn't so bad anymore, because I knew a day was coming. A day of reckoning. Exactly what would happen then, I didn't know. But I trusted Uncle Tom. I was going through life like a zombie. My only moments of life were when I was on my computer, chatting away with faceless comrades on the dark web. I'm not sure what I was doing when the package came from Uncle Tom. It was morning, and I was supposed to be preparing for school. A rectangular wooden box, motor oil stains, and cracks all over its surface. I grinned like an idiot as I took it from the delivery boy. Uncle Tom had sent a cryptic message on the chat the day before. "When you receive your package, you will know what to do. Open it once you're at school, not a second before." I was excited. Finally, they would understand. The box was bulky, but I managed to fit it in my satchel. My mind was all over the place, trying to imagine what was in the box. Part of me expected a microphone and a script of things I was supposed to say to my tormentors. Another part was scared to give an image to what I was thinking. I got to school with no problem. The security at the gate glanced at my satchel twice but let me pass. It was time. While others were rushing to class, I took out the box from my bag. I removed the lid of the box. Inside was something that filled me with fear. But it was only for a second. My initial fear was washed away by a burst of excitement that made me lightheaded and sapped the strength from my legs. My lips stretched into a diabolical smile. When I walked into the classroom, 52 faces turned to stare at me, most of them twisting into masks of confusion and fear. "Mr. Jackson, you were late," the teacher started to say before he noticed the object in my hand. His face went pale, jaws going slack, eyes filling with absolute terror. The gun gleamed in the morning sunlight like a polished mirror. The whispers had started abruptly dying. And everyone stared at me. You could fuel a lifetime of nightmares with the terror that hung in the air. I scanned the faces, looking for my tormentors. James tried to sink into his chair, but there was no running from me. The time had come for him to pay for all the lunch money he had taken from me. The humiliation, the suffering. Another part of me wanted to start with Ruby. Her rejection still stung. I walked slowly towards my classmates, my strides sure and purposeful. "There you are," I thought as I located Ruby at the back of the class. She was crying, my mind made up. I leveled the gun at her. Someone screamed, the shrill sounding like a siren. I pulled the trigger. I laughed maniacally, waiting for blood to bloom on Ruby's clothes like a crimson rose. But nothing happened. The gun gave a rattling sound and puffs of smoke infused from the barrel. I pulled it again. Click, click, click. Nothing. The gun had jammed. I screamed in frustration and advanced towards Ruby in a rage. If I couldn't shoot her, I would club her to death with the gun. That's when I was tackled from behind. I later learned that it was one of the security officers who had tackled me. At the time, my mind had disconnected from reality. I had failed. Now, as I sit alone in my cell, I can't help but feel disappointed in myself. But not for long. A smile rises unbidden to my lips as I read the newspaper. While I had failed, my brothers hadn't. As Uncle Tom had prophesied, there had been a reckoning. People always say there's a feeling you get when you're being watched. It's like an electric current on your skin, a sixth sense that tells you you're not alone. I've been feeling it for a week now. As I walk to my apartment under the dim illumination of the streetlights, I feel eyes on me from the shadows. Someone is stalking me, and instinctively, I know they do not wish me well. I've tried to think of a reason why anyone would be out to get me, but my mind keeps drawing blanks. About a week ago, I woke up with a splitting headache and a horrible case of amnesia. I couldn't remember what I'd been doing the week before that. My memory wasn't hazy, it just wasn't there. There was a void where my memories were supposed to be. My doctor says the memory loss was most likely due to some cocktail I ingested because he found traces of scopolamine and benzodiazepines in my blood. I tried to explain to him that I'd never take such drugs for recreational purposes, but he just gave me a pointed look. He had been my doctor for years. It was no surprise that he thought I was self-medicating. We both knew it would be for me to go down that path. That's not the only thing that wasn't in place. Soon I realized that my bank account had decreased drastically. I was missing over $10,000. Initially, I thought the money had been stolen, but my transaction history showed I myself had withdrawn that money. Had I been under duress? Suddenly, a picture started forming in my head. Me drugged to the gills, being forced to withdraw all my money from an ATM by a faceless man. It made a lot of sense, but I couldn't place the Tor browser role in all of this. I found it on my laptop. I was certain I hadn't installed it. I knew people used it to get onto the dark web, so it made me wonder what I might have been looking for on there. If it was me who had actually installed it and not someone else. So I figured my best bet was to take some time off work, report the matter to the police, and see if my money could be recovered. "You play too much, Eric. Go home and rest like you said you were going to do," my boss said, smiling at me. "What do you mean?" I asked, cocking my head. "You came in on Friday and requested 2 weeks off, so I'm surprised to see you here. But if you're here to treat us to dinner again, then by all means stay." Amos grinned. That floored me. I had bought dinner for everyone on Friday? Why would I do that? I hardly talked to most of the people in the office. And another thing? Our leave request system was very complicated. It was something that I always complained to HR about, and they kept saying they would fix it. There is no way I could have logged in the request while drugged. There was something definitely off. On my way back to the office, I started feeling the eyes. The city was abuzz with traffic, brightly lit by the sunlight and filled with people moving purposefully. But I still felt unsafe. Across the street from me was an unmarked van, just parked there. I kept walking and noticed the van starting to move slowly, paralleling my pace. That's when I panicked. I increased my pace, my heart palpitating. Could it be the guys that robbed me back again for seconds? Suddenly, the van sped off, and I was left staring in its wake, half relieved, half terrified. I needed to know what was happening with my life. I needed to know what had gone down in the week that I couldn't remember. I had to do that before the darkness caught up with me again. A year ago, my wife died, and I hadn't been the same since. I lost all interest in living, and every day is just another repetition of a bleak and empty existence. My doctor says that darkness is depression, and it can be treated, but after losing my Penelope, I wasn't sure I wanted to be treated. But since I woke up last week with my memory loss, the darkness has been at bay. Fear and confusion have consumed my every waking moment, leaving no room for anything else. I was on my way to the police station when it happened. I could feel the eyes on me again, like a drill boring into a soft surface. I was about to cross the road when some instinct told me to look up. There, perched on the edge of a building across from me, was a figure in dark clothing. Extending from him was a sleek barrel of a sniper rifle, and he had it aimed to shoot. I wanted to run, to scream, to tear into the concrete and burrow into the earth, but I was out of time. There was a cracking sound, a splash of red in the corner of my eye, then darkness. My doctor said I was lucky to be alive. The bullet had glanced off my skull instead of penetrating. I just lay there in bed as he talked. I wasn't listening. Someone had tried to kill me. I had been right. They had been watching me. I shivered as I realized that nothing was stopping them from trying again. Lots of people came to see me in the hospital, bringing me flowers, snacks, and cards with sweet messages. My friend Jimmy was even kind enough to get me my laptop, so I wouldn't be bored. I really appreciated the concern. I had never thought people liked me that much. Later in the day, I received one last visitor. I was scrolling through videos on YouTube on my laptop when he walked in. It was a giant man in a form-fitting tuxedo. "The contract is fulfilled per the terms. Assurance of death costs more. And there is also the matter of the police, since this is now hot. If you want another go, you know where to find us," he said, before leaving promptly. I stared at him in confusion for a while, before it dawned on me. Suddenly, I knew what had been happening, and more importantly, I knew who had been trying to kill me. I didn't think they would be trying again. I stared thoughtfully at my laptop, my eyes glued to the Tor browser icon blinking on my taskbar like a lone star on a dark night. The History tab showed a site for hitmen who specialized in assisting would-be suicides who were afraid of chickening out. Their tagline was, "You won't know it's coming." For the past week, I've been receiving death threats. Each email is more graphic and horrifying than the last, and every notification sends a chill down my spine. I've been hiding in my room, letting the terror consume me, but the latest message has pushed me to act. Whoever is doing this knows things about me, things I'd rather keep buried. This all started on Sunday. After getting home from church, I had the rest of the day to myself. Unlike most 18-year-olds, who would probably go hang out with friends, I preferred my own company. Sure, I had friends, but I liked to ration my time with them. What I truly loved was browsing the dark web, particularly sites that hosted unique POV video games. Regular internet games couldn't compare to these. That day, while scrolling through the dark web, I came across an ad for a game called Scrambler. There were warnings not to play it, but I assumed they were just part of the allure. So I clicked Start. Nothing happened at first. The screen remained blank for about a minute, then white noise filled the screen, followed by rapidly flashing images. It was so fast I couldn't make out any of them. Then the game closed itself, leaving me disoriented. I shrugged it off and moved on to other games. The emails started that night. I was having dinner when I got my first one. "Sinners burn, Emily, but first they have to die." It was creepy. But what really shocked me was the email appeared to be from my own address. The next day, another email. "Liars burn like kindling, but first they have to die. Are you ready to die, Emily?" My mind raced with fear. Who could be doing this? It couldn't be a prank. None of my friends were that cruel. And how would they even access my email? Tuesday's message. "The fire will lick at your flesh, and your secrets will come to light." Wednesday. "In high school, you put hair remover in Lucy's cap, and no one ever found out. But I know, Emily. I've always known. And for that, you'll burn." Thursday. "I know you sometimes wish your father would die. Does the good book not speak of honoring thy mother and father? You will die soon. Friday. "I will strip the flesh from your bones and gouge out your eyes with a hot rod. I will pluck out your lying tongue and burn it before you." By then, I was a mess of terror, secluded in my room, pacing up and down, waiting for the inevitable ping of another email. My parents thought I was going through heartbreak, so they didn't bother me. I was too terrified to tell them. Saturday's email was the worst. "I saw you sleeping last night in your red night dress. You look so comfortable." You know who didn't get a comfortable night's sleep? Tommy Brown. When he was locked up for 2 days after you falsely accused him of stealing your bike. Tears streamed down my face. Whoever was doing this had been in my room while I slept. Panic rose inside me, and I felt like the walls were closing in. I had to do something. I decided to leave my phone recording a video of my room as I slept. If someone was coming in, they would have been caught on camera. I hid the phone between some books on the bookshelf. It was well hidden, unless you knew where to look. That night, I slept restlessly, plagued by nightmares in the morning. My phone was the first thing on my mind. I cached the video to my computer and pressed play. The footage showed me sleeping, twisting and turning. Then, around 1 a.m., I watched in mounting horror as I saw myself sliding out of bed. The me in the video turned to the camera and smiled. A dark, twisted smile that looked foreign on my face. The me in the video sat at my desk and started typing. After a few minutes, she stood up, looked at the camera again, and blew a kiss before sliding back into bed. From there, the video showed me sleeping. I was frozen in place for at least 10 minutes, unable to move. I was certain I hadn't gotten out of bed. Suddenly, an idea struck me. I opened my Gmail app and gasped as my fears were confirmed. There, in the scheduled folder, was an email set to be sent in an hour. It was addressed to me, from me. "Are you ready to burn, Emily?" The terror of the entire week boiled over, and I screamed. My parents found me in a ball on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. It took 3 months of therapy to start feeling normal again. The psychologist said it was some kind of hypnosis, probably a sick experiment. I haven't been on the dark web since.